What's up, everybody? Welcome to CFP Talks. This week, we have a very special episode for you. Now, if you are in the process of taking CFP, and maybe you have taken your CFP already, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, now I got my CFP. Now what? What do I actually now go and do with my CFP? How do I take all this awesome stuff that I learned on CFP and spend months and months and months learning, and how do I actually turn that into a profitable practice that's conducive to my lifestyle, that's conducive to the clients that I want to serve, that's conducive to my niche. In this episode, we sit down with Andy Panko, who is a career changer, who has developed his own practice and his own model. And if you are looking to build your own practice, then today's episode is for you. Even if you just want to learn some best practices from an advisor who's taken it and successfully boiled down his client list down to just 50 clients, today's episode is for you. There are tons of gold nuggets in this episode that you're going to learn from Andy, from Raman, from myself, that you guys are absolutely going to love. As always, we have a couple links for you underneath this video. Number one, our Q Bank that we use with our CFP group is here for you on a 7-day free trial. So if you're interested, go ahead and click that link below. Secondly, if you are looking to potentially join one of our courses, or you just need some help figuring out your path for the CFP exam and you want to sit down and chat, feel free to use that link below as well to sit down and chat with me. And we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Let's make your next attempt your last. What's up, Andy? What's up, Raman? Great to be here with you guys. And for those of you who don't know who Andy Panko is, he is one of the leading voices in our industry. So, Andy, for everybody who doesn't know you, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Give us the Cliff's Notes version of, who you are and kind of where you are in your career.
Sure. Yeah. First, thanks for having me. I'm definitely looking forward to this chat. So I am the owner of Tenon Financial, which is a small-ish fee-only RIA that I started up in November 2019 from scratch. Prior to that, I spent 19 years in institutional, corporate, and banking, so in and around investing, but not advising. So started this firm from nothing, wanted to stay solo, have since built it up to it's me plus two other W-2 salaried employee advisors. We currently have about 100 households that we serve across the three of us, where we each have our own clients. It's not like we're a team structure where there's a lead advisor, second seat advisor. And we'll be adding on another 30-ish households over the next year. It's kind of it and skinny. I mean, we focus on traditional decumulation, retiree, pre-retiree planning. We do manage investments for everyone, as well as the distribution and income and tax planning around all their finances and where they get their paychecks from, and putting together comprehensive income and tax plans for everyone throughout the years.
Phenomenal. So let's kind of take it back a little bit, because I think you and I kind of grew up on the industry in the same side. I started at a broker dealer. Raman, to some extent, had some broker dealer experience, and we all kind of know the route is we got to accumulate and we got to get AUM. And
Yeah.
it is obviously, and I never want to knock that, because it was the thing that opened up my career and gave me the gateway to everything that I currently have in my career. So I never want to throw shade on it, but we always kind of in the backyard here is like, there's a better way to do this.
Yeah.
So what encouraged you to kind of, and I knew for me right away, I graduated college, the senior advisor that I worked with had his CFP. It was like, I was like, I'm 26. Who the heck is going to listen to me if I don't have some credential? So kind of what encouraged you to get the CFP? What did you think of the process? And then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, so I wanted to be an advisor when I was in college, and I graduated college in 2000. Didn't really know what it was, and as I was searching for roles, going on interviews, I quickly realized, or at least the places that were interviewing on campus were all just insurance sales and the big wirehouses, and I just got very turned off. It was all just sell, gather AUM, very production focused. It wasn't. I wanted to help people with money, not just check boxes and get them to buy or do certain things. Right. So I gave up on the idea, and that's how I ended up just kind of stumbling into the corporate side of the financial world. But came back around later in my career to want to revisit what it would be like to be an advisor, but do it on my own terms after, almost 20 years and working for the man and shackled to a desk doing the corporate
Yeah.
grind thing. I was like, I don't want that. I want to open a firm, serve who I want to serve, do what I think is important, charge how I want to charge, et cetera. And so I started thinking about, okay, how do I do that? From not being an advisor, how do I get to the step of like opening a firm and
Yeah.
what's involved from compliance and operations and what do I need to do for myself to make myself marketable and learn stuff? And quickly realized I already knew of the CFP, realized that was basic table stakes. Now it's not a license, like you don't need it to be an advisor or planner, right? But it's the closest thing the industry has to a sort of standardized credential, if you will. There's also the CHFC, as you know, which is very comparable, but
Yeah.
for better or worse, simply doesn't have the public recognition because the CFP board puts so much focus on public ad campaigns, whereas the American College of Financial Service, who owns CHFC, does not. And there's a PFS if you are a CPA already. So I figured if I'm going to do this and get this comprehensive planning knowledge through some broad designation and tests and courses, I'm going to go with what's most recognizable. So CFP it was. I knew I already knew a lot about investing in the industry. I knew I wasn't a planner yet because I hadn't worked in it. So I got to CFP for a few reasons. One was I wanted exposure to all the varying, the various different elements of financial planning. Now, simply taking those courses, passing the test doesn't make you an expert in those. It just gives you the baseline exposure and understanding of things to be aware of, things to consider, et cetera. So there was that. So me not coming from planning, I was like, this is a good way to force myself to learn some of the technical aspects and get exposure to the elements of planning. And then again, just frankly, like the marketing aspect of it, the public, a lot of the public recognizes and has heard of the CFP. They've never heard of CHFC, they never heard of PFS.
Right.
And so I thought that would help me coming not from an existing planning role. I thought that would help give me some credentials to get those letters after my name.
What were you most surprised with in terms of the things that you learned inside of that program? Because I think you're absolutely right. For if you want to put the word planner after your name, we got to have at least, we got to kind of be the internal medicine doctor. We got to be the
Yeah.
GP of and know a little bit about everything. I remember going through the curriculum and I was 26 at the time and going, everything was new. I didn't have that 10 years of industry experience. I had interned for a while, but I was so surprised that there was so much financial knowledge that I didn't even know existed. For somebody who was in the industry for a period of time, what was most surprising that you learned in that material?
For me, like the investment stuff I knew well just from my corporate life, but I can see how people who don't have an investing background, that's a monster. Like investing could be very overwhelming. There's 1,000 different ways to skin that cat and all sorts of product creators and strategies out there that people are trying to sell you as a new shiny object. So
Sure.
I can see struggling with that. But I had that fairly well figured out, thankfully. For me, the tax stuff was fairly new at the time. I mean, I knew the basics of personal income tax from just being an adult with a job,
Yeah.
but a lot of the tax stuff was new to me. The retirement stuff I struggle with the most, like all the different plans, not just what a 401k is, because again, that I was familiar with from my corporate world, being a participant, but like all the simple IRA, the SEP IRA, the contribution limits to things, the different cash balance plans you can set up. Um, the what do you call it? The discrimination testing rules, like that's something I never heard of. So that I struggle with. That was the biggest newest, hardest thing for me to learn was all that, and the rest of it I wasn't surprised by. It was a lot of content, like insurance and stuff. I already, again, from being an adult with a house and a car and life insurance, like I knew the basics of those. But the retirement stuff was like, whoa, this is heavy.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go on, Joe.
I was gonna say I agree with that. It was a lot. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
remember
And the funny
taking.
thing is, like, even like for somebody who took the test, like Andy, when did you take your test?
March 2017, I think it was, or
Okay,
maybe
27.
18.
And then Joe,
Yeah.
you took your test like in 1950.
1957. It
Your
came out of
CFP
the
number is number one.
So, so the craziest thing is
it was
those people.
2008. Okay. So
Oh wait, oh, so from '08 to 17 to 15, right? 15 to 17, it looks like that is still like one of the biggest hurdles for majority of the students that we work with, and because the CFP board does put emphasis on these items.
Yeah.
No, so a lot hasn't changed since then, basically, from like
yeah,
what they're testing.
we had a lot of estate on ours, but
Okay.
the
Yeah.
estate limits were 3 million at that point. So
Oh, right.
everybody had an estate problem who had life insurance.
Hmm.
So now obviously it's considerably different, and I think they made those changes with the 21 knowledge topic shift. But that was that was really it was such a I remember it was so daunting. I remember going through and going, what are these words?
Yeah.
Like what is
Right. Right.
this?
Yeah.
So now Andy, you get this in 2017. Now what? Right? And I think a lot of students are in this category where I have this great baseline knowledge. And even with Raman and I teaching classes, we see this with a lot of students who come back and go, this was so stimulating. I learned so much, and I feel like I get to carry it over to my job because I didn't know this, and I think we all kind of take some of those rules for granted. Oh, it's $70,000 or 100%, not realizing that there are limitations to a solo owner of a practice that has a SEP
Yeah.
IRA. And so I think a lot of times we look at things on the surface and then we start to realize, wow, this actually digs deeper. When after you got your CFP, what were your next steps? What was your now what?
So, okay, so it was actually March 2018. I passed the test. Um, and so, yeah, I had met Mike's not funny story, but I had, what was it, 6,000 hours you need? I think it was. Through some of my prior work, which qualified, and from teaching at Rutgers, I got some hours towards teaching. I was 498 hours short of meeting the experience requirement of 6,000 hours, I think it was. And I was still in my corporate life. So this was 2018. I didn't plan on leaving that world till 2019. And I was doing this all in the shadows. Like they didn't know I was leaving. I couldn't make that public. So I was getting these designations, learning about the industry and whatever kind of, on the quiet. But I realized, okay, I need another 498 hours. I'd like to hit the ground running when I do eventually leave, being able to use the CFP to have the letters after my name. And so what I did was I found that the FPA residency program, Financial Planning Association residency program, gives you 500 hours if you attend the program. And so I did that in October
Perfect.
2018. It was perfect. It checked off fulfilling, rounding out my 6,000 hours, but it was a fantastic experience. And I'm not paid to say this. It was a great experience, especially for someone with minimal to no actual planning background like myself. It's a week long, very intensive. You're kind of holed up in a hotel with the other participants and the mentors. Maybe it's 5 days, whatever. Where every day is a full day of like doing mock planning where the mentors walk you through scenarios and you have to put together plans and actually do like mock meetings and stuff like that. So getting some of that hands-on, granted fake and lab type environment, but hands-on exposure to planning and implementing stuff was very helpful. Again, and it also got me the 500 hours I needed. So that was my next step. I did the residency, got my hours. That then qualified me to get the CFP. So I got that usable. Again, still kept it private. I didn't make it public, so I was still working in my old life. Um, and then in the background, I set up my LLC. I started the registration process a few months before I launched. And at that point, my employer knew I'd be leaving. So like, because I had to do that. Once I started filing my ADV, like they needed to be aware because they can find out I was doing that, obviously. So that was my next step. And then next step finally was November 2019. I left my corporate job, started, Flip the Switch live. My website was live. The ADV was approved. Like I was ready to go to start planning. Flipped the switch on November 2019. It was like, okay, like now what? Now where do clients come from? That was the next step.
How freaky was that?
Yeah, it was weird. I mean, I was mentally prepared because it was a 3-year journey from when I said I want to do this to when I finally did. So there was lots of prep time and saving personal finances to have a cash cushion to live off of for a while, doing what I need to do to, again, get the company up and running. but it was still weird. I've always worked traditional corporate jobs ever since graduating college in 2000. To not have a steady paycheck was culture shock. I'm used to it now, but it was hard at first.
And Andy, so when you flipped the switch, did you have an intention to be a fee only, and did you have an intention to be like a remote advisor, or did COVID kind of like, because I mean 19 and then boom, we're hitting COVID, right? So I'm already
Yeah.
thinking, like, okay, like you're starting your business at the worst possible time where people can't see each other anymore in person. So like, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was very intentional with how I set it up, what service model, what fee structure. I wanted to be fee only. I was completely sold on that. I fully subscribe to like the XY planning network approach and fee only. And not that products aren't important. I mean, I have more life insurance than I objectively need, in my opinion. But for the giving of advice, I feel like fee only is the cleanest way to do it. So I wanted to be fee only, wanted to do ongoing planning and management of investments for clients, again, in or near retirement, but wanted to charge a flat fee. That was one big, very different aspect about how I set the firm up. Not percent of AUM, everyone pays the same flat fee for the service, and that includes management investments. So that was already specced out, and, approved in the ADV, was on the website of what I do, what the fee is. So that was clearly thought through. Um, as far as whether it be in person or virtual, I didn't know. I planned on taking whatever came. I was doing in-person marketing stuff like library seminars, taking out to lunch centers of influence, trying to get quoted in magazines and online stuff. So that was November 2019, but COVID happened, to your point, a few months later, and the in-person stuff just simply stopped. Now, I didn't get any clients who weren't family and friends pre-COVID. So like my mom, my in-laws, my aunt and uncle, and a former coworker were my first four clients. Then COVID happened, and I got like no, non-family and friend clients. I don't know how far you want to fast forward, but basically I started a Facebook group in April 2020 that really took off quickly. And my first real client who wasn't family or friends was a couple in Alaska who hired me July 2020. They were members of the Facebook group, saw enough about me, interacted with me through the group, got comfortable with me, reached out. We had a call that they hired me on the spot. And then that's basically where most of my clients came from that point forward, is from the Facebook group during the thick of COVID, 2020, 2021. And they were all over the country. And the business just happened to become virtual by nature of COVID and people finding me from, places far outside New Jersey, which is where I'm based. So now the business is purely virtual. I love it. I can't imagine having to dress up to go visit clients or have clients come to the office. I mean, I do visit clients. I'll go travel and see them for lunch or dinner or whatever, but all business is conducted through Zoom, email, to a lesser extent, phone, and secure file sharing vault. That's about it.
That's nice. And it's funny you say that with with the shift that you made. I went something similar to that effect. So I was working for Facet few years ago, and Facet is a fee only firm, flat fee, of course. And then that's when it just kind of like I had a light bulb moment. I'm like, holy crap! Like, wait a second, you're telling me that I don't have to sell products and I don't have to charge a percentage of fee to a portfolio to build my practice, because I've always had a desire of building my own practice, but I just didn't know that I could. I just thought that
Yeah.
you have to have a physical building, you have to be able to take clients out to dinners and webinars and seminars, all that stuff, drop a lot of money on marketing, and
Yep.
you get the CFP, and now you're like, shit, I'm stuck. I am working for an advisor. Like I'm on a nice payroll. Now, there are some people, they're happy with their income, right? Like, we
Yeah.
meet some students, they have a partnership route or whatever that is. We got to get the CFP so I can become a partner. But we also meet people, and Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, where they want to do better, right? They were like, hey, I'm working a job. I'm an associate advisor. I'd love to run my own practice. I'm waiting for the old guy to retire. I mean, I have waited for two old guys to retire, and guess what? I never got that business. I
Yep.
waited and waited, and eventually I moved on, right? So my whole goal was that I want to do something, and then Facet allowed me to see, like, wait a second, I can do a flat fee planning, and then it just, like you said, taking that leap of faith and understanding what my available options were was very important. Because think like, so when we look at these students, and you've obviously, you got your CFP years ago, you building your practice, for the last 6+ years, almost like 9 years at this point. let's just say somebody else is in that Andy Panko shoes who just got his CFP, right?
Yeah.
And now they're like they want to do something better in their life. They don't want to just have a job. What would you say? Like you looking back at it, what would you tell these students? Be like, hey, if you're stuck at this, if you want to do this, here's the roadmap basically for you.
See, I told you that part was going to be pretty awesome, and it was. Now, as exciting and great as that was, we got 2 more parts to this series for you with way more stuff that Andy gives us insight into. And next week is a really cool episode because what we're going to break down is if you're that person who is maybe thinking about, I want to go maybe work at an RIA, maybe I want to start my own RIA, then this episode is going to be for you. We're going to talk about whether you want to be an employee, whether you want to start your own thing, how are you going to get clients, how are you going to talk to them. We break that down all in part 2. We look so forward to seeing you next week.